Hello Algebra 1 students, this is lesson 27. Our objective for today is what are some things to look for in graphs to see if they are misleading. So most of the graphs today are going to have a title like this that say identifying misleading line graphs or identifying the misleading graph. And really the question is, I guess, why do we have misleading graphs? And really there's kind of two answers for that. First of all is just by mistake. Sometimes people will try to fit a graph on a certain piece of paper, or they'll accidentally leave something out, and just simply by mistake they'll make a graph that tells something different than what the data is actually representing. And the other reason for misleading graphs is people do that on purpose to make the data look quote-unquote better. And by I mean better, I may mean they're trying to make it look bad, so that way you'll want to vote for them, or maybe it will look bad so that way you'll donate money. But better for them to get better outcomes or results. So we're going to go through and we're going to look at a few of them so we can see if we can start seeing some things that we can notice in graphs. So here, this is example 1. It says the line graph shows the number of members of a health club each month since it opened. Explain, why the graph may be misleading. Let's just look at the graph for a second. This axis over here says the number of members, and over here and down this scale down here is the months, so January, February, March, April, May, June, etc. So this is just representing the number of members per month. Now let's just see where it started. It started, this line right here represents 600, this one represents 700, so this would be 650. So they started right around 625. They've been open, or at least since I started keeping track, they've been open 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months, so almost half a year. And now they're at 900 students. When you initially look at this, though, it seems like they went from almost nothing up to, this really big number. And they have increased in membership. That is true, but it's probably not quite as much as you might look or you might think. Maybe to graph this properly, you need to add in, this is 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, and 900. And so the graph would start more over here at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then over time it'd go to 900. So whatever it did, So it does show increase, but here it looks like it went up a lot because it went up all the way from here to here. Whereas in reality it just went up from here to here. So it looks like it has a lot of increase when in reality it doesn't necessarily have a lot of increase. Here's a couple more. This one says, a radio station conducts a survey of music preferences of listeners. The bar graph shows the results. Explain why the graph may be misleading. Well, I guess let's just look at it and see what kind of information we can draw from this. This is 0, this is 500, 1,000, 1,500. So this is the number of listeners that prefer each type of music. Rock, pop, hip-hop, other. So rock is between 500 and 1,000. Pop is between 500 and 1,000. Hip-hop between 500 and 1,000. And same with other, between 500 and 1,000. So when you initially look at this, it looks like they're all about the same. However, you can tell some slight height difference there. And so maybe if you did a better scale, meaning what if it just, why do we even have 1,500? There's nothing that goes up this high. So why don't we cut this out or maybe stretch this up? So essentially you'd have something that goes more like this, 250, 500, 750, 1,000. And then as you do these graphs, you'll actually be able to see a change in the height. In those, just so you can actually see a difference. Like there actually was a significant difference between, say, pop and rock, but how they have it graphed now with this big scale, it's really hard to see. Let's look at this one here. It says the circle graph shows the number of some types of sandwiches a deli sells in one day. Explain why the graph is misleading. Well, the first thing we need to be aware of is that it says this circle graph shows some of the types of sandwiches the deli sells. So as we're looking at this, there's 40, 48, 52, 84. But we don't know, is there another kind of sandwich as well? So we don't know how many sandwiches were sold total in that day, because this just represents some of them. And that can be a problem, because from here it looks like, oh look, ham sandwiches sold the most of those. Oh, this is probably a typo. I'm supposed to say wham. Sorry. The wham sandwiches sold the most. But what if there was another type of sandwich, say, I don't know, grilled cheese, that they sold 90 of, right? Which would make all of these shrink. So you have to include all the data for the given area. You wouldn't want to leave out some of them and just be like, oh look, we sold a bunch of these, but I only sold one fruit smoothie, so I don't want to mention that. No, you need to include that fruit smoothie one there in your circle as well, just so you display all of the data that you're trying to represent. Alright, and one more. It says an electronics store created a graph to show the average selling price of a television each year. Explain why the graph may be misleading. Well, I'm looking at the graph and it doesn't really seem to have gone up much. Looks fairly level. It seems almost like it went down between here and here. So that means internet must be cheaper than whenever I started, or just a little bit more. But again, kind of same thing as the last one. That scale goes 0, 500, 1,000, 1,500. So everything along here, this line, is 1,000. Everything along here is 750. Everything along here is 500 degrees. So just keep in mind, it could be misleading just because there's no explanation to go with it. B says, what conclusion might be made from the graph? Why might the store have created this graph? Well, to draw a conclusion, it seems like my store increases are getting larger. And why might a store have created this graph? Well, simply to show that prices of a television now are about the same as they were, 12 years ago. But the idea would be to make it look like sale prices haven't increased much, so to help customers maybe be more apt to buy. Part C says, make a graph of the sketch of the sales data that is not misleading. So same information here, we're just going to make a graph. So notice my scale here is 2000 to 2005, still stays the same. And my average here, this one goes up, but there's a little more detailed. It goes 1,500, 1,000, 500. This one goes up by hundreds. But again, starting at 600, because if I plugged 500 into that circle, we'd end up with negative numbers in there. So this right here is just representation of what this graph should have looked like if graphed properly. Your homework assignment for today is on page 161. Do all of the 27s, all the 26s, and 11 more of your choice. Good luck.